Well, I love worshiping together, and at 11 a.m. today, we are having church in the park behind the warehouse and the factory. We're all getting together. All 6 of our worship communities are getting together to worship together. But you know, this past week, in our chapter day reading, we went from the Gospels, the 4 Gospels. We've read 89 chapters together so far, and we moved into the fast-paced and amazing book of Acts. I love the book of Acts. We're going to be in it for the next number of weeks, and here's a passage that I probably love more than any other passage in the entire Bible, but especially my favorite in the book of Acts. Acts chapter 2, verse 42. Here's what it says. It says, all the believers devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching, to the fellowship, and to sharing a meal, including the Lord's Supper, and they devoted themselves to prayer. Listen to this. A deep sense of awe came over them all, and the apostles performed many miraculous signs and wonders, and all the believers met together in one place and shared everything they had. They sold their property and their possessions and shared the money with those in need. They worshiped together at the temple each day, met in the house of the Lord for the Lord's Supper, and shared their meals with great joy and generosity, all the while praising God and enjoying the goodwill of all the people. And each day the Lord added to their fellowship those who were being saved. What we read here is the opening scenes of the launch of the very first ever church. It's a behind-the-scenes tour of the first church that ever existed. And what we want to do today is we want to take a little bit of a behind-the-scenes tour of what's happening at Riverwood these days. So come on with me. We're going to go into the fire hall here. Some of you have never been here. This is our home base where our staff have set up. There's about 24 staff that work out of this building. There's a lot of stuff happening, but this is only one of our 6 buildings here in Elmwood. Let's see who we can find to talk to within this building. All right, so coming into the main floor, and who do we meet but Rhoda? Rhoda is our brand new receptionist. How long have you been with us, Rhoda?
About 6 weeks.
6 weeks, and you came from another office somewhere?
I did. I was part of a very busy real estate company.
Okay, you've been there a long time too, and we are thrilled that Rhoda is with us. She's a site pastor, her and her husband Carl, at the warehouse. And what are you noticing about your job here? So you've only been here 6 weeks. What do you do, and what are some of the highlights of what you do?
Some of the things I do here, I answer phones, I get to touch base with people in the community who are struggling, some people in the church that are struggling. Get to do some investigative work, trying to find new church chairs, trying to weed around the fire hall.
You do everything, and but probably the thing I love most is that I know that when somebody phones in, and you've had some people who phoned in with some really broken hearts, and I know that they're going to get a voice and a caring heart. You've prayed with people, you encourage people, you refer people to different services, and I just love the fact that you're the first contact for people at Riverwood. So let's see who else is working today. All right, so we got 2 floors of offices. We're just renovating the main floor for our community space, but this is the other area at the very top of the stairs. And let's see who's working up here today. Emily. Emily's also brand new to our team. Hey, Emily, how are you doing today?
How are you?
Good. What is it that you do?
I am the food bank facilitator and the refuge program facilitator.
Okay, how long have you been working here, and what are some of the highlights of what you do?
It has been almost a year. Actually, I think it's a year today of me working at Riverwood. And it's just been so awesome getting engaged in our community and really focusing on neighborhood programming and bringing people into the church and just serving those around us has been really awesome.
We're trying to investigate what God is doing at Riverwood these days. How would you kind of characterize that? What would you say? We're looking at the book of Acts, how God began the church. What do you see God doing these days in our local church?
Yeah, so I just really I feel like a move is coming. Just God's bringing more people in, and after the shift of us opening up after COVID, I just really feel that, he's bringing more people and encouraging them to open their hearts to new things and just new ideas and just experiencing Jesus in a new way. And I feel like there's just a lot of new and cool, exciting things going on here, and I'm excited for what God's going to continue to do. So
love it, and I'm excited to have you on the team. I love the way that you love our community. And you love God, and you are determined to bring the two together in many ways, which is so cool. Keep up the good work.
Thank you so much.
Okay, let's see who else we can find working around here. This is Pastor John's office. You got to take a look at it. This is Pastor John's office in a clean state today. He's got so much stuff going on in his life, which is awesome. We love what he's doing, which is great. This is actually our boardroom, and right now there's a meeting going on here. Pastor Carolyn's leading this meeting. It's a meeting of volunteers. Now, these volunteers are getting together. This is the care team, and their responsibility is to care for the needs of our Riverwood community. So they pray for people. They do hospital visits. They do meals ministry. So they actually cook meals. We have a freezer here. They deliver meals to people who have just had a baby, people who are have somebody in the hospital, people who have lost a loved one. They write cards. They care for people in some really creative ways. And this is part of our care team right now. So they're just strategizing on how they can care for Riverwooders even more effectively in this year to come, which is awesome. Pastor Ben's office is over there. He's out and about right now. Some of the community ministry things happening here. Uprising offices, again, they're out and about. Hopefully we'll bump into them at some of our other buildings, but let's go see who else we can find. All right, so you probably remember a couple of years ago we did something called the Turkey Trot, and the Turkey Trot was a fundraiser where we raised about $125,000 towards the refurbishment of the main floor of the fire hall. The best part of this entire renovation was this amazingly bright commercial kitchen. And so this is a space that is going to be used for cooking classes, for preparing meals, for taking stuff that comes from the food bank and doing some really creative stuff and showing people how they can use the stuff that comes from the food bank and how they can make great meals and very nutritious meals. There's going to be kid cooking classes here. So much community is going to happen in this space, and we are so thrilled. So we're still raising some funds for this. We're looking for some grants to finish off this project, but we are going to be in here within the next couple of weeks, and the worship community is going to be back in here, and we are absolutely thrilled that this project is coming to a close and a completion. So a number of years ago, Riverwood was, right next door to Riverwood was a kind of a derelict apartment building, and we often dreamt, oh, wouldn't it be incredible if we could get our hands on that 8-unit apartment building, but then we realized there's no way we could ever kind of afford to have that much money to turn it into some sort of transitional housing. Well, it turned out that that building burnt down, and so then we thought, well, there goes that dream. We're not going to be doing that. However, it wasn't very long after that a group of philanthropists from Winnipeg, a lawyer, an architect, a retired farmer, got together, and they wanted to do something in terms of supportive housing, transitional housing here in Winnipeg. Long story short, they came to us with a proposal, and they said, we would love to build a 40-unit brand new transitional housing complex. We'd like to help raise the money for this, and then we'd like to give the keys and the deed to Riverwood, and we want you guys to run it and it to be yours. And so that's exactly what happened. Pastor John and the team have spearheaded this. It's been an incredible Herculean effort to make this thing happen. But today, Riverwood House has now got about 15 participants, and we're heading towards 40. We're just continuing to welcome people in incremental stages. And if you've never seen the inside of Riverwood House, let me introduce you to a little bit of what's going on at Riverwood House. All right, so as soon as you walk into Riverwood House, one of the first things I want to show you is this remarkable mural that was painted by a Riverwooder. There was a dream involved in the story. We're going to actually tell the story more fully at church one day. But what ended up happening was that this journey of the Riverwood recovery journey ended up coming to this wall. So you've got this person who is paddling upstream, and it's a difficult paddle upstream, but they're coming to this path. And as they come to this path, they come walking through this path, and waiting at the house deep in the woods are people already waiting to welcome them. And so what you have is Riverwood House is a place of transitional recovery, and we're just so thrilled with that picture that has come. Now, I want to introduce you to a couple of the people that actually are running the program here, Steve and Kathy. Let's see if we can find them. Okay, here's Steve and Kathy. This is in our main area. In fact, why don't you tell us? Hi, guys. What are we seeing here? What is this area?
This is the common room. This is where we have shared meals together with participants. We do community building. We also have space to do workshops and education.
Okay, so you got how many? 12 participants that are living here right now? How is that on-ramping, the first 12 being?
Oh, it's been good to take the time to come in slowly so they can really feel like family before more come in.
And Kathy, what is your role? What do you do?
I'm a navigator, which means I help them connect to the resources that they need and set goals.
Okay. And Steve, your role?
I am the director of Riverwood House.
Okay. And we have somebody else that's on staff as well.
Correct. Walter Thielman is also a navigator, and so the three of us make up the team.
So what has the experience been of launching the very first residents of Riverwood House? What are some learnings that you guys have already kind of experienced?
Well, I think, as Kathy has alluded to, taking it slowly has been a very, very wise move. We've learned as much from participants and their needs as what they would learn from us. So we're trying to build a culture here that is supportive, is family. I've got your back, you've got my back. And as we add people to that culture, then they're absorbed into it rather than them starting their own little culture. Yeah. So
that's so cool. So we just read Acts chapter 2, verses 42 to 47. It's all about the birth of the first church and what God was doing behind the scenes in that. So how would you characterize what God is doing behind the scenes here at Riverwood House?
I have just been thrilled to see their openness to faith. And at this table right here, we pray every morning. There's some of the residents that initiate that and say, hey, let's invite the presence of God, because we need that to be transformed. So, wow, I'm just thrilled about that.
Yeah, how about yourself?
I would say the same thing. Even though we're not specifically an institution of faith here, the desire for spirituality as an anchor for recovery, we see people telling us that that's something they desire. So that's been really cool. I think the other thing that's really been neat, and it's happening today, is a fellow just felt that, hey, you know what, I've got a little bit extra food, and he's making a meal for the rest of the people. That's not on the regular community meal time. He's doing that under his own volition. It's the whole sense of giving back, and that's something that we're talking about from day one, the importance of that.
Well, and you know what? Even in that passage in the book of Acts, they shared meals with one another. They came into each other's homes. They did community and relationship, right? And you guys, you're doing such a great job, and we're just really thrilled to be part of this team, and you're part of our team. And so we're going to move on, see what else God's doing around Riverwood, but thank you for sharing. All right. All right, well, I realize that a number of you have probably never been to Winnipeg or Elmwood or Riverwood, and so this building is our flagship building. It is the factory. It's where we began 20 years ago. So 27 years ago is when we planted the church. 22 years ago is when we got this building. It was a commercial door factory, a warehouse. The front windows that you see there were actually loading ramps, and it smelled like a welding shop, and we just saw so much potential in this place. And so for the last 22 years, I guess, we've been using it as our home base for worship and kids ministry and youth ministry. And let's see if any of our staff are here and see what God is doing in their lives. All right, lots of people think that church only happens on Saturday or Sunday around here. There is stuff happening all the time. In fact, we got a volunteer crew here right now. These guys, they have been working on the Stairway to Heaven. Actually, they call it something else, but I can't tell you on video what they call it. But these are some of our volunteer guys that have just been, we call them the retirement squad. They are guys that give Wednesday afternoon to construction projects and to maintenance projects, and they are just doing a fantastic job of just getting stuff done around here, and we're so grateful for them. Yeah, we just want to thank you guys. Nobody would know that you're here doing this stuff, and yet it gets done every week. It's okay. Every week something more gets done, and it's behind the scenes, and it's because guys like you are doing it, and we're just so incredibly grateful. So just want to say thank you. All right, and just over here, I see Debbie and Lydia. Debbie and Lydia are our Riverwood Kids, along with Lisa, who's not here right now. They are our champions of Riverwood Kids. So take a moment from your work here just to come talk to us about what's happening in Riverwood Kids. So first of all, COVID is sort of a little bit behind us, and kids are starting to come back?
They are. We are seeing quite a few new families coming through our doors, which is great to see, and also seeing some of our regular attenders coming back.
All right, and you're over at the warehouse. You're the warehouse director, and stuff's hopping over there as well, right?
Yes, very much so. We have a very, very full house. It's very fun. It's very chaotic, but it's the best time ever.
All right, and after Church in the Park weekend, a bunch of those kids will be leaving to go to the fire hall because fire hall is opening up. So one of the things that we often talk about with Riverwood Kids is the need for workers. You guys always see, so what's the deal? Why do you always need workers? What's going on?
what's going on?
It's a demanding ministry, isn't it? Like it's a people-intensive ministry. So coming out of COVID, we a lot of our teams were kind of gutted by COVID, right? So we're in a rebuilding phase. So where are you guys at in terms of some of your needs, and why would you want somebody, or why would somebody want to join the Riverwood Kids team? What's in it for them, if you want to say?
What's in it for them is that they will be blessed by these children. The pure joy that they come and the excitement they come willing to learn and hear about God's truths. I know that fills up my heart every weekend.
And that's remarkable, because when you're in your place of gifting and calling and you do that, it does fill you up, doesn't it? It just, you get the sense that you're just in that right space. What kind of needs do you have in Riverwood Kids here at the factory?
Here at the factory, I have a big need on my Saturday night team. I need a lot of adults to come in, especially for our school-age kids, to teach them. And then at our 9:15, I need adults for our 2-3-year age group, as well as the nursery. And then a couple at our 11:15 as well.
What are your needs at the warehouse right now?
Currently, we need a teacher in the grade 4-5 room, and we could use some more nursery workers as well.
Okay. So if somebody said, you know what, I want to join the Debbie, Lydia, Lisa, Riverwood Kids team and want to go be part of this thing, how do they get a hold of you? What's the best way to kind of get connected?
They can contact us at kids@riverwood.cc, as well as we have serving cards at each of our check-in desks.
Love what you guys do. You got such energy, such tenacity. It hasn't been easy going through COVID and continuing to keep the wheels on and caring for kids through this whole thing. But I just want to say, way to go. And we're with you and love what you do. And thank you for serving our kids.
Amazing.
Okay. All right. Let's go see who else we can find. So at Riverwood, we've got 7 worship communities. We've got 3 of them here at the factory. We've got 1 over at the warehouse. We've got 1 at the fire hall. We have the African worship community, and you, our online worship community. But the factory ones, this is where they happen. And we have actually kind of made this space a little bit more to look like a factory. This is the stage where a lot of this happens. And right now, I'm just going to take a moment to bring in our creative director, Angelina. Angelina, it is great to have you here. So you were a creative intern, and now you have been hired as a creative director. What do you do?
Well, I do a lot of exciting things. I like the fact that I'm never stuck on one thing. A little bit of stage design, a little bit of social media, a little bit of communications. So it's just the mix I really enjoy, a little bit of planning behind the scenes too as well. So I really enjoy that. Yeah.
Okay, she's very modest. A little bit, and a whole lot of keeping the wheels on the thing, keeping things organized. We have service directors, we have tech teams, we've got stage hands, we have all these people, and we've got all these different services. Now you're fairly new to Riverwood and to Winnipeg. How long have you lived here?
I've been here, I think, about 6 months. Yeah, somewhere around there.
Okay.
I came in March. Yeah.
All right. So another person who's kind of beamed in from the outside. What are some of your first impressions and some of the stuff that, again, you know, we've been here 27 years. We kind of, some stuff wears off on us. But what are you noticing as part of the Riverwood church community?
I think something I noticed even before being a part of staff here is a time when I came with my brother when they actually drove here. And I wanted to come and see initially what this family they were going to be a part of. And I think just the fact that when I came, I see the team was already there by the house, like just willing to help. And everyone was just there, offloading, unloading, unpacking. So it spoke volumes to me as far as like where my brother was being planted too, right? So it just shows a lot of community and just to echo some things even that was said earlier too as well. It's just that you do what you say, like you not just say you're going to do it in the community, but you put that action towards it. So that was impactful for me for the first time I came to Winnipeg. Yeah.
So for people that might not know, your brother is Pastor Dunstan, who is our small groups and discipleship pastor. And we've just loved having him and his family, your whole family, actually move in here. And then we had the opportunity to get to know each other. You've been such a gift to our church. You and I work quite closely together on the services and keeping everything organized. It's very volunteer intensive. and we're not everywhere where we want to be yet, recovery of COVID, but what are some of the opportunities that people would have to serve on your team?
Oh, the opportunities. There's lots. As far as even with service directing, I know it's a little bit behind the scene, but you have a chance to just lead a team too as well. Some of the things we talk about, vision, VIP, vision, information, and prayer. Just the way anything is done for the services and making it intentional and having that impact in everything that we do. Those who are interested in service directing have that opportunity to be a part of that. The other teams, as far as the e-visuals and all those different pieces, it just helps make the whole experience worth it, and to be a part of that experience, to impact the people. I think that's one of the highlights. Yeah.
Well, thank you for what you do and being part of our team. We love having you on part of the team. This is just one of our venues. The fire hall is another one, and then we've got the warehouse. So let's head on over to the warehouse to see if anybody's over there. All right, we just sort of snuck in the back door here of the warehouse auditorium. It's really quiet in here. Nobody's here, which I'm actually really glad for. For those of you that have never been here before, the warehouse is hopping these days. There is so many people that are coming out to warehouse service at 10:15 on Sunday morning. It's really awesome. But right here, this space is one of my favorites. This is where our prayer team and our pastors often gather. Just to take time at the end of the service to pray for people who are in need. Lots of times it's just a matter of having a conversation or sharing a story. But as I'm sitting here today, I just realized that, and I've heard again this past week, that there are a number of people who are part of the Riverwood family who are really struggling. They've had some disasters happen in their life. They've got some news that is really difficult. We got somebody in ICU. We got a couple of people who are actually in really difficult places in hospital. And I don't know where you're at today, but I just want to take a moment and just pray for our church and pray for you. And so why don't you join me as I'm even up here at the front of the prayer area here. Let's pray together. Heavenly Father, I want to thank you for this day. A little bit different worship today as we're just kind of recounting the things that you're doing in the Elmwood community in Winnipeg here at Riverwood. I thank you for all of our staff. I thank you for our volunteers. I thank you for each person who comes here. And we think particularly today of those who are struggling. I think of those who I've received prayer requests from our care ministry that are struggling with health issues. Somebody's struggling with a job decision that just seems impossible, and they just need help with that. We've had people who have let us know that there's some relational struggles that are going on in their family that is just kind of ripping them apart, and they really need an intervention. And God, we know that there's so many people who are struggling financially and struggling just with this kind of after pandemic stuff that's going on, but there's a lot of residual emotions and struggles and depression and anxiety. God, whatever the need is today, we just want to thank you that you already know the need. You already have the provision. You are already fully equipped to take care of it, and we want to ask you that you would. God, we want to pray in faith today that you would do miracles across the Riverwood Church family. That, God, that you would continue to do these strong miracles in our lives, and that we would tell others about the things that you're doing, and that many more people would come to know you personally. God, thank you for the restoration that you're causing to happen in our church. Thank you for the miracle of Riverwood House, the miracle of our community ministries and our uprising, our Riverwood Kids and our small groups, and just every ministry across this church, God. We want to thank you that they're all places where people can connect with each other in deeper and meaningful ways and connect with you. And we love that. We love being part of what you're doing, not just 2,000 years ago in the book of Acts, but what you're doing today in your church. You continue to resource and love your church, and we thank you for that. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, well, let's go on a search and see if there's anybody here at the warehouse that's working today that we can kind of bump into and find out what God is doing in their lives and in this place. So here at the warehouse, we love our foyer. It's a great big space for people just to connect. And then we've got a patio. And so what we started doing last week, we're so excited about this, is called After Service Hangouts. Here at the patio and then over at the factory, we're doing it out in the parking lot. We've got all this pallet furniture, and we got cushions and umbrellas, and we got food. Last week we had tacos and drinks, and people just hung around and just talked and reconnected after 2.5 years of being so isolated and not connected. So we're loving that. We're going to continue that as long as the weather allows us to. Wow, we got some of our youth people here. Brittany, you are our youth pastor.
Yes.
And you have a person who's working with you. Who's that?
Jordan, and he's late again.
Hey, Jordan, what is your role here at Riverwood?
I saw you recording. I had to come over here. I'm the middle school and sports ministry director.
Okay, and your role, Brittany, as youth pastor is what?
I look after this guy.
That's a full-time job right there.
Yeah. No, I get to oversee all the youth and young adults also, and just cast vision for it and make sure that people are cared for and programs are happening and leaders are met with and supported, and and then take care of him.
Okay, so you guys just had a leader retreat last weekend, and tell us a little bit about how to go.
It was awesome. It was so good. We just saw some personal breakthrough with some of our leaders spiritually, which was awesome, and then just really equipped them for some of the common questions that we faced throughout the year with our youth. It was a great weekend.
Awesome. And you guys, your programming is actually starting this week?
Yeah, this coming week we have our launch parties. So we have a glow party for middle school and a house party for high school. And it's going to be lights and dancing and music and glow games. And it's just going to be a great way to start the year.
All right, listen, we have read Acts chapter 2, verses 42 to 47, the account, the behind-the-scenes account of what happened in that first ever church. We're on a bit of a walking tour, talking about what God is doing today. So what are you seeing God do today, particularly in the context of youth?
Oof. I think a lot of times youth and students are so underestimated, but deep within them there's this hunger to find out where their identity comes from, the hunger to give to the world and show the world love, and sometimes that's channeled in unhealthy ways, but what we get to do is we get to take everything that God has already put in them and we get to channel it towards incredible ways to serve him and make sure that Jesus is known throughout our city. So
awesome. What would you answer in terms of what God is doing these days?
It's a great question. I see a lot of our youth actually becoming more hungry to serve. I see a lot of our youth becoming more hungry to be involved. They're starting to think that they're starting to think that being involved in the church and having a spot here, that's where they find their value. That's where they're finding their identity. And that's just so cool to see.
One last question. Post-pandemic, are students coming back to youth ministry? Are they coming back to Project 678? Are they coming back to middle school and to high school? What are you seeing?
It's kind of weird because with student ministry, you would have expected that they would have all left and dispersed, but we found through COVID that we actually grew, which was like a really strange thing, because that's not the pattern that we see throughout the church. And they never left.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. That is powerful. And that just gives you such hope for this next season that we're moving into. What a launching pad. Well, listen, you guys, we love what you do. We love the energy that you bring, the way you lead your team. I think you had like 18 out at your team retreat, the way you bring them together as part of a community to serve, and the way you take care of our students is just powerful and profound. And so you also make us laugh, which we love. So love you guys. Keep up the good work. Can't wait to hear what's going to happen this year. All right. Let's take a little bit more of a walk, and then we'll wrap things up. So I feel like we can't really have a behind-the-scenes tour without actually showing behind the scenes. And this is our workshop over at the shed at the warehouse. This is a place where a lot of the building stuff happens, a lot of the maintenance stuff happens. We just finished our video studio behind me, and we had a volunteer crew that did a phenomenal job of that. But the reason I wanted to kind of wrap up here in this space with all these tools is to just let you know that there is so much that happens at Riverwood behind the scenes that isn't necessarily polished and beautiful, but it just takes people to come in and use the tools that God has given them, to use their passion, their energy, for everybody to be in it together. And, I just want to kind of say gently, again, I realize that there are some of you who are at home because you got health issues, or because you have travel distance issues or transportation issues, and you're unable to come to church. And we're thrilled that we get to come into your home or onto your iPad or your phone or whatever. But you know what? I also know that there are some of us Riverwooders who, we disconnected from church somewhere over the last 2.5 years, and we've just gotten lazy, and we're not serving anymore. We're not putting the effort in to come to worship together, which does take some effort. It's a discipline, and we've just kind of allowed our hearts to get disconnected. And Again, I do say this gently, but I want to invite you back. We're doing everything we can to keep our environment safe. At the same time, we are beginning to experience people coming back together, and the vibrancy of worshiping in the same room with a couple of hundred people at the top of their lungs, and with the worship team leading us full out. This weekend, Church in the Park. Next weekend, we're going to be doing the after-service hangouts again. I just want to personally invite you back into community, back into vibrancy, back into using your spiritual gifts and your energy and your resources to build the kingdom of God here in Elmwood and in Winnipeg. This is a team effort, and we need everybody on board. And it just doesn't work if a bunch of people are kind of at home on their couch in their jammies. We love that we can serve you in that way if you need to be there, but some of you need to be here. And so I want to invite you back. Also, we are in need of people to step up and re-engage their spiritual gifts and their passions and their talents and abilities into serving. And so I just want to ask you, what team are you on? We've got 12 teams at Riverwood, 12 teams that come together to serve Jesus out of their passion points. Some of those are behind-the-scenes teams that you will never see. Others of them are leadership teams or prayer teams or worship teams or Riverwood Kids teams or Uprising team or Ascent team, production team, tech team. We've got so many prayer and care teams. We've got so many teams. Go on the Riverwood app or on the website, and you'll see all of our teams. As well as there's probably a number of people who have just kind of disconnected from giving and worshiping through their tithes and offerings. And, in all honesty, behind the scenes, we're about $103,000 behind in our giving from last year. The economy is definitely taking a hit on our giving. At the same time, there are people who have the resources and ability. They just have sort of disconnected from worshiping and giving in that way. We want to invite you back to that as well, because it's as all of us do this, we get to see God work in profound ways. So let's take some time to worship with one more song, then we'll wrap things up.